Here. Good evening, everyone. I'm going to see if I can record this today. And everybody out there, hope you can hear with the big speakers. And hope I'm getting a recording, and hope we get people calling in. You can hear them with their questions also. So we'll take a look at that. I'm going to start you off with a slide here as soon as I switch to cameras. Well, hang on. Okay, now you should be seeing me in the bottom corner here as I'm talking to you, and hopefully looking at the camera and what's going on in the monitor here. See if I can change the picture here. This is where it all started. I picked up a magazine upstairs about basket weaving. Think I could make those into a beads of courage box, right? And so this was my first choice on that I was looking at. This is the bottom. If you can't read this, I want to come over here. Glasses. Glasses. All right. This is the bottom ring of the bottom in one ring for that box I was looking at. All right. This is the second ring that you stack up to get that weaving effect. And then this is the top. That's got an awful lot of holes in it to cut out a scroll saw. When I was younger, I could do that without a problem, but not sure if I could continue to do that or not. Right? So here's the second choice, is this nice little box here. Right? Fewer cutouts. Okay, so, and it's made, sides are made with sticks. From sticks. And the top and bottom, no cutouts, you notice. Right? And I'm just trying to decide if I should use maple or poplar to make the boxes out of. I like maple. Poplar's cheaper, lighter weight for the kids, maybe, I don't know. But some time has passed since I've looked at the books, and I'm standing at Menards thinking about getting a piece of wood for that. And then I got to 11% sale. So then, okay, what wood do I need? Let's look for some maple. Well, I find a piece of 1/4 inch thick by 5.5 inches wide to make these big ring pieces, right? Okay. And they didn't have any maple. I had a memory lapse. Remember, I was going to make the one with the sticks, not the rings. And so there we go. So there's the two pieces I bought. Okay. I can still cut those up into sticks if I want, right? Okay. Well, when I went into another room of my house, there's a whole stack of maple, 1/4 inch, about 5 inches wide. Right? So that's what I decided to use. Right? The wood source, I bought that, all that stack there from Oshkosh Design when we toured them in Winneconne. They were cut off sort of like a garage sale. I bought a lot of wood from them, actually, when I was up there. And this is actually the first project I've been using them on. And I bought it, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. That's why I forgot they were down there, I think. In the box's size, if you look in the American Association of Wood Turners website, you'll find out that the turn box is 5 by 6 inches in diameter by 4 to 5 inches high. These are interior dimensions, or about 78 to 141 cubic inches as you vary the sizes there. For a rectangular or square box, they're looking for something in 4 inches width, 6 inches length, 4 inches high, with a volume of 93 cubic inches. Now my box is 3.5 by 7.5 by 3 1/8 inches high, and I get an interior volume of 82, right? So I think I'm close enough right now. We'll see when we take it in to show it to them. Okay. Start out with the CAD drawings here. I use a Libra, SketchUp, and Punch, or via CAD, same thing, I think. Okay. So here's to start with a piece of wood. I cut them to length, and then start to cut my sticks out of there, 3/8 inches wide. Cut a bunch of them. Okay. And then it's me, I always try to come up with a different idea. All right. I don't know why I do this. It complicates things sometimes. But I want to, instead of doing these bump outs, we'll walk over here. Right here, it would simulate dowel rods. All right. I'm going to drill holes in it like that and put real dowel rods in it. All right. Well, you know that's going to complicate things, trying to line up all those holes in those pieces. So we'll see. So I have a drilling jig, the spacer blocks that I made. And here's the first stick against the side, drill the first hole. Then I put in one of the spacer blocks, drill the second hole. Another spacer block, drill the third hole. And nothing's moved except sliding it to the left with the spacer blocks. Okay. And then I use a template from the computer, in which I printed full size, to lay out a pattern. Like that, okay. Now I'm going to cut those out on the bandsaw using an 1/8 inch blade. And now take them over to sander to sand them down a little bit. Those curves in there are a little tight for an 1/8 inch. I probably should have gone to a smaller blade. Also, it would have helped. But this helps sand them out, gets them kind of real nice and smooth. And then on this one here, because the holes are stuck back in the corner there, I had to use a 1/2 round file to get back into there and file that curve out a little bit. Right. And now here I'm cutting the dowel rods out. Notice that's the little red thing there. That's a welding triangle to hold pieces together square when you're welding them. It makes a nice stop on your bandsaw. I should have pushed it back a little, pulled it forward so I wouldn't be running into it like that. But they're so small, it didn't hurt anything. And then, as usual, the dowel rods aren't the same size hole that I drilled, right? I drilled a 3/16 hole and went and bought a 3/6 dowel rod. Well, the dowel rods are always bigger. I didn't want to try re-drilling the holes again. So I've got a piece of metal, drilled excessively a little larger hole by a couple thousandths in a piece of metal. And then I took the dowel rods and hammered them through the holes to make the dowel rod smaller. And then it worked. It just took, it was a pain, but it worked. Right. And then I dyed the dowels red. And then here's a animation from SketchUp on how I assembled the pieces. This is just one of the small sides. There's a longer side. It's about 10 inches long. This is a little over about 6 inches. It took me about 2 weeks on how to figure out how to do this animation and getting all the different files, things. And this one went a little faster because I knew what I was doing. That was my layout where I drilled the holes. I just use it for my, so I'm putting the top and bottom pieces on like that now. Oops, pointing the wrong thing. Okay, now I use the full-size template again. Laying out the top and bottom piece. I cut out on the jigsaw, and here's an assembly of the box. Okay. And then here's the top with this is the lid retainer so it doesn't slide around and sits on top of the box. There's a knob, a rough sketch of the knob. There's the finished turning. When I was putting the little bead in there, which you see is missing, I got a catch and broke the bead. So I just turned it off. Painted the big round circle here in the pole black. And you're all questioning that. I can hear it out there now. Okay. Well, I made some homemade mandala tools to do dotting and a dotting test board here. Now these are my tools here. This one is a map pin stuck in a dowel rod. This is a glue stick. This is a ball bearing ball stuck on the end of a popsicle stick. This is an eraser. This is a Q-tip rod without the fuzzy part on it. These are two straight pins with different size round heads on them. This is a toothpick. And these are embossing tools that I had bought a long time ago, thinking I might do something like this, but never did. Right? And I thought I might be able to use them in my model work of some type, but that didn't get done either. So, and then that's just a piece of maple with the black ring on it that I'm testing the paints and the different tools on right now to start this. Right? Now there's the top with the bead in it, and those are dots around there made with those different tools. And here's where I'm going to start using the same kind of paints. Those are acrylic paints that you can buy at any of the art stores or Menards or Michael's, Hobby Lobby. It does matter sometimes which ones you get. Right? The Americana, I think it is. This one right here, I got EM on it. Those seem to work best right out of the bottle. A couple of colors give you a little fit. Right? It's got to be the right consistency to flow off of the end of those tools. Right? And if it's not, then you will leave ragged edges on it, or it'll come off. And so, and the best thing I've learned, because I've got them from bottles. I've got 2 big containers full of these paints from every manufacturer that makes them, I think. Right? And so I use a chemical called flow help or something like that for airbrush paints. And you mix 1 drop to 20 drops as a recipe. And I just mix up a little jar with it, and I use a Q-tip sticking in it, and I just squeeze a couple of drops into the paint, into a little paint that I've got on the paint palette, because you don't need a lot to do this type of stuff. And that gets it pretty close to the consistency that I need. And then I always test it before I go on. So here's some more dots. And so all I'm doing is taking one of those tools, dipping it in the paint, coming over and dipping it onto the board. Right? Just into the paint, into the board, into the paint, under the board, into the paint, under the board, like that. And I laid out my 90 degrees, 180, and 45s, so I could try to keep some symmetrical as to the circle. And there's the end of the pattern right there. All right. And there's the box, spray finished and red ball feet that I added onto it. It wouldn't set flat necessarily. You know. And then I put some felt inside when they dropped the beads in there to make a lot of noise, I think. So I just put a little felt in the bottom. Okay. Now I'm going to show you, I'm in the process of making a second one. Same box exactly. Same dimensions, everything else, but I'm using CNC machine. So here's where I started with the same maple stock, cut the pieces to size. One's on the left, are same, the longer pieces glued to edge to edge for the top and bottom. This is the, well, can't see that too well, I can't. Sorry about that. The way that doesn't show up very well. It does on a computer. I can see it great on my little computer here. But this is a software that I use on the CNC machine. It's called VCarve. And you can use it to draw the pattern, or you can have it transferred into the system if it's a DXF, a DWG or DXF file. Right? And these are the long pieces. Right? Over here, you'll see these are the commands or the icons you use for drawing. This is for editing the object, you know, cutting lines off that you don't want them, or marrying pieces together, different like that. So putting cross hatches in it for some reason. Okay. So, but I brought them in since we're the same drawings. I just brought them in. after I got them from well, my Libra converted into a file, which took a pain to do. Anyway, so now this is the VCarve drawing of the toolpath. Same pieces, but now this is the toolpath going around here. And these are the icons you use for creating toolpaths, saving the file, and looking at your tools and selecting a tool and stuff like that. This is another view of the object, but it's 3D. So a lot of times, if you get a very complicated piece, we use many tools. Sometimes you have to go to a 3D and move it around so you can see what's been left in there that needs to be cut yet. Okay. And this tells you if you've cut through everything also. This is the VCarve drawing for the shape of the side. Right? This is what the side looks like with the slot in it like that. Okay. And this, it's thinking it's this piece of wood here, when it really isn't. It's a smaller piece that comes out of. But I had to keep the cutouts inside, even though they're not holes. They're pieces cut out of it or cut off the side. I had to make them look like holes so I could get them programmed correctly, to my knowledge now. Oh man, that doesn't show up very well. That is the toolpath going around all of those like internal cutouts on that piece of wood there. There's this is how I attach instead of clamping it down or using double-sided tape. I've been trying to use this process, which I got off the internet, is you put a blue painter's tape on the back of your wood, and then you super glue. You put painter's tape on the spoil board of your CNC machine, and with super glue, you just stick the piece down on there, and it holds very well, really does. And when you take it off, you just peel the tape off the back and front, the back of the piece and off the spoil board. I'm using a DeWalt DWB611 palm router with an 8-inch solid carbide spiral upcut bit. I'm going at 22,400 inch RPM, a feed rate of 70 inches per minute. That kind of scared me the first time I thought about pushing that little bit that fast. But then again, I'm only going 62 thousandths deep, right? So that's not a lot, but it's still pretty fast. And it's a chip load of 1.5 thousandths. Right? You know, the first time I cut my very first piece out, I was only going about 20,000 RPM and 40 inches per minute. And when I cut that, and that was just about 1 thousandth chip load, maybe a little less. And I cut the piece, it was very fuzzy, wasn't a very clean cut at all. And the carbide bit was warm, all right? So when I went up to this one, using this speed and feed, and before I was only going 50 thousandths deep, I'm going a little bit deeper. I went around the entire piece and there's hardly any heat in the carbide insert at all. And it cut very clean, very nice. So here's one of the first small side pieces being cut after the holes. I didn't drill the holes, I routed the holes. I plunged and went around, plunged, went around, like that. Okay. Only problem I had with that is that they aren't coming out perfect circles. And I think that's the way the CAD system came in from, even I used circles to draw them, but when it got converted over, I think it did it in fewer facets. So it looks like it's faceted, but if you look at it real close, got facets instead of perfectly round. That's something I got to work on. Same thing with the cutting the loops here. These things here, that looks a little faceted also, and those were real arcs. So, here's the whole pattern, pieces grouped together. And you can see that the tape is holding all these pieces in place. These pieces are being held down by the tape. So I didn't have to worry about those flying off on me. Okay. Now here's the other piece with the 5 holes in it. I did have a couple of problems here. These little pieces here, when it came up this way, there's no problem. When it came down this way at it, it tended to flip it up. So I lost a couple of those. It didn't hurt anything, and it didn't throw it that far away. So when I did it the next time, I used an X-Acto knife, and as they were cut, I tried to pick them up out of there with the tip of the knife. If the tape would let it go. If it didn't, then I left it in there. And here's a stack of the pieces that I've cut. Had some issues, some I've mentioned already. One of them was when I made my first cut. This was like one of my first pieces here. You see the holes are considerably smaller. Well, I found out that the 1/8 inch router bit wasn't cutting 1/8 of an inch. It was actually undersized. Don't know why. I wouldn't think it would be, but it was. So I actually had to offset the router bit. And there's in setting up your cutting, you can do an offset. So to make it cut bigger or smaller based upon your tool. And first time I did it, I went plus to make it bigger. Well, plus works on the outside of a piece. On the inside, it's got to be minus. So I had to start all over again and make another piece. So it's about 20 thousandths on diameter I had to add as an offset in order to get the right hole diameter. And the other issue was you have to set your 0 in the XY corner that you want of your stock, and then you bring the tool down. And in most cases, when you're cutting through, you touch the spoil board, okay, with your tip of your tool, and you set that to 0, okay? And then all your cuts are positive, and you're going down to 0, okay. Well, not sure what happened here, but I didn't get cut all the way through, and I left these little pieces hanging in here like that. And those are about, I think they're somewhere around 15 thousandths, something like that. So what I see in the going down to 0, you have to bend down and look to see if there's any light between the bottom of the bit and your spoil board. And maybe I didn't get down far enough, and I didn't have it all the way down, so I left a little bit there. Since then, I've changed the way I do it. I set it in a corner, and I do it from the top of the board, and I make sure I go deep enough. So, oh, yeah. The other issue is the blue tape. When you're cutting it, it tears it apart and leaves you blue marks on here, little blue fuzzies that you have to take off of each piece. Sometimes I can sand it down. Sometimes I can take the edge of the X-Acto knife and just scrape it off, or I can use a furniture scraper and scrape it off. But it's just another task that I have to figure out how to eliminate. So this was, I was checking the holes. This is the first set of small side pieces, right, that I tried the holes, and they all lined up very well. When I was doing the first box, and I was using my jig to drill the holes, I could get all of the pins in, but the pieces were not all the same level, and there was a little tension in it. It wasn't perfectly flat, but you can still see, even here, you can see this highlight in here, this shadow, where pieces are higher, and I don't know why that is yet. It's not a lot, it's about 15 thousandths, but still I got to sand that off now. And I just don't understand why, using the same drawing, same dimension, same tool, that it would be different. It shouldn't be. I got to figure that out. Same offset, the tool and everything. So this is the first glue up now using, instead of the red dowels, I'm using blue, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, but you can see that it doesn't look too bad, but I think I've sanded this one down already. I actually use a furniture scraper, go across it. Cuts real nice, and then cuts it right off, and then I finish sanded. So, remember, this was the drawing that we're trying to get that last frame to. And here's a test board. I wanted to make sure that everything would cut all right. Here's the hole. Here's the slot. That slot is for the side piece, you know, like they're half slotted, set on top of each other like that. And this is the side cutout. So that looks pretty good. Okay. You know, this is a simulation of the V-carve showing you the full tape and actually what it's supposed to be cutting. Okay. I did the holes pretty fast. And, this takes about a minute and a half, and I slowed it down considerably. If you don't slow it down at all, it's done in a blink. You know? But it just gives you some idea of what you can see and how you can verify your cuts. Okay. I'll stop it here. Okay, so now I got the first piece sitting on there. This is how I'm getting away from some of the tape problem, as I'm not using as much. Instead of going all the way across it like this, I'm just putting it on the ends to hold the piece down. All right. And there's what came out. Right. Now you notice there's an extra hole up here. All right. That's not supposed to be in there. This piece I actually cut after I'd done the test piece with the half, right? And I didn't view it like you just saw the verification of the cutter file. I just went ahead and cut it, okay? So I put it on there, did that. And for some reason, when I had made half of it and I mirrored it to this half, I wasn't in the center of my piece. I was off, I don't know, a certain amount. You couldn't see that because it mirrored fine and everything looked fine. And I cut it. And as soon as I put in the first hole, looked great. It's right. This came over here and started putting that hole in there. And I could see right away it was too far from the end of the piece. And I stopped it. That was all I did was those two holes. So I'm trying to figure out, well, it's ruined. I might as well go look and see what the problem was, fix it. And that's what I did. And I came back and then I reran the verification video that you saw, the simulation, and it cut it out perfectly then. So now I got to find out if I make a whole new one, or do I try to patch that hole? I haven't decided yet. I thought about trying to take some boards, glue them up like this, sit it down there and cut it out on the CNC machine and see if I can't make it a perfect size, and it'll still look like it came out of there if I can get the same color wood to blend in. I don't know, that may be too much work also. Okay. So now we're going to do the top and bottom planks. All right, so here's the planks, and this is all the tape I'm using now, is on these two ends of that thing. All right, there's the same two pieces on the spoil board. Okay. There's the piece on there. Now, because it was a bigger piece, there's some warp to it, you know. So this is a brass weight that I got that setting on here, and then I clamped here to the bed. I can get the clamp underneath the bed, clamp it down until the glue sets. Now, here's an actual view of the router cutting the piece out. A 1/16 of an inch deep. It actually goes around there four times. If I turn the sound on, you hear it's really noisy. Got to work on that also. So here's the finished piece, got out of there. Look over here. This is because this was such a big piece. I didn't want it shifting in there, and I didn't have any tape holding it down. So you're able to program tabs in there. You know, those tabs are, you can specify the length of the tab you want. You can place them where you want to, and you can place how thick they're going to be. Right. So this is I went with what was there, just default. That's a 1/2 inch long, and it's 50 thousandths thick. Right. So on the last pass, when it's coming down through there, you can see it jumping up over it and back down again. And I got 4 of them, one on each side, one on each of the 4 sides in the middle. So what I do is take a chisel, put the chisel on this side over here, the waist side, and hit it with a mallet, breaks it right off. And then I go into the sander or file it off, sand it off, or a knife to get it, whittle it down a little bit and then sand it. Okay. Now, this is another top that I've got here, and I was playing around. I put in a 60-degree angle tool, V-cut type tool, and programmed the Captain America shield in here, and trying to cut it out just to see what it would look like and how it would fit on there. Okay. It's not too bad. I'm going to use this, and I'm going to paint this silver, this blue, this red, this silver, and this red. And I haven't done that yet either. This is another experiment. I got a 2-watt laser with the CNC machine, and I put it on. I did the same thing here. This is on a piece of brown cardboard. I tried putting it on a piece of white foam board, and it didn't work. I think it was reflecting back into the laser, and it just wasn't working. I think that's what it was. But at the same time, I cleaned the laser. As I say, the optical glass on it gets dirty real easily from the smoke, and then you have to keep it clean or it won't work. So I'm not sure which is the problem. But you know, this didn't come out right here. Because when I had put this on the spoil board, I put it too far back on the y-axis, and I hit the stop, and it shifted the head back and got everything out of whack. That's why it bumped like that. So I actually went in and got my limits and put them in red pencil. So hopefully I don't get it out of, hit them again. Here it is on a rejected top. If you looked at the back, it got all screwed up. I don't know exactly remember what happened now, but it was no good. So I'm practicing on the back here. And you can still see there's glue on here I didn't take off, and it didn't burn through the glue. And that's just 1 pass around at the maximum heat. So 2 watts is not very hot. I may look for a laser. I talked to Jerry Takis, and he bought a 9, I think he said, a 9-watt laser off the internet for $100 and puts it on, and he uses it all the time. And with 9-watt, I could probably cut through like 1/8-inch plywood or something. So to give that a try. This was back to the Mandela paintings again. My wife wanted something in our bathroom. We had a huge mirror. It went from wall to wall. We took it down and put a smaller mirror in, and we had a big open spot on the left side here. So this is about a 12 by 18 frame on here, and I used the colors of the bathroom, which are gray and yellow. It's pretty old, so that's why those colors. And that's the end. Thank you.